Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another windy Iowa day and another episode of Junkyard Digs. Back with our 72 Cutlass here today. If you missed the previous episodes, this 72 Cutlass S was sitting down in a storage unit in Kansas. It's been bouncing between storage units for the last 33 years before we finally came across it. We purchased it, unseized the stuck motor, and drove it all the way home to Ames, Iowa. A good 300 miles home. In the last episode, we went through an extensive amount of work and polished the entire car, and this thing looks absolutely amazing now. On this episode, we're going to polish all the mechanical aspects of the car, because currently it doesn't even run. After we got home, we did another, about 70 miles according to the odometer, of just daily driving this thing, because it was just so good. And of course, failure happened. Yeah, we broke down. All of the fuel lines began to delaminate, and it all clogged up right here in the fuel filter and in the fuel pump. So, we need to get that fixed today. On top of that, we have a brand new Edelbrock AVS2 that Edelbrock sent us to put on this car to make it reliable and get rid of that quadrijet so that we could drive this thing the way it was meant to be driven, with an accelerator pump.
Yay!
So we get a jug of gasoline, 8 foot of line, and 3 days on an open weekend to get this sucker buttoned up and ready for the road.
The Goldsmobile!
Let's do it. So to get things started off, like I mentioned, we have no fuel being delivered to the carburetor right now. I think we also have a dead battery at the moment. There's a bunch of mice.
Ooh. Hello?
Great. We have nothing coming out of this hard line down here. So what I'm going to do is pop this guy off and just do an external tank for now to drive this all the way back to the shop, and then I will flush out the fuel lines somehow. Hindsight 2020, I should have power washed the engine bay before I detailed the car. Whoops. All the tools are down at the shop, so we're going to be operating solely off of Tang Tools' portable box, which is more than enough to get this done. This thing is amazing. You can check it out, tangtoolsusa.com. Alright, screwdriver. Dink. We have a new battery in there. I need to find some brake cleaner or something, get a little fire down the throat, and see if she lights off and moves fuel. Come to life. Thought about it. Still no accelerator pump. That's good. Good. Let's drive it down the shop and get to work on getting this sucker back on the road for good. Good God, I forgot how nice this car drives. It's just smooth as butter. Floats down the road with one finger. Add to the list, we need to tighten the steering a little bit. Forgot about that. The car is very floaty, so it might need some shocks too, but honestly it's so floaty that even if the shocks are bad, I don't care. It's just so good at driving. Seems to almost be running better with this, which totally makes sense because, you know, it wasn't getting enough fuel before. It was being starved all the time. Yeah, it sounds like it has a big cam. It just kind of runs like poop. You kind of hear it, like, you know, fluttering, popping a little bit now and then. The last rev the quadrijet will give. Well, we made it to the shop. It has been a solid moment since we've filmed in here. As you can see, things have changed quite a bit. Everything's a mess. It's basically the big change. The Le Mans is exactly like it was back in February and March when I put the rear axle in. I did that, and then I literally haven't touched it since because I haven't had time. Actually, I took the carburetor off for something else. There's three-wheelers and engines sitting everywhere for other projects. School is taking all of my time. I'm here about once a week, so yeah, it's a total mess. But we're here. So we're gonna go ahead and start tearing into this fuel system, see if we can get this sucker to start moving fuel appropriately. Alright, let's get to work. So we are underneath the Cutlass by the back axle. So as you see, these springs are contoured to be small on top, small on the bottom, wider in the center. They are designed for a plush ride, which they absolutely do offer. The bad thing is they're pretty small and they like to wear out really quick and get all bound up. And as you can see, if I bring the camera level, that sucker is leaning way forward for some reason. I don't know if that's an axle location issue or they're just bound up and twisted. One thing I do see though is that someone's already put lift blocks here. This is a lift block to help raise the car. They were definitely hauling the whole family around in this because it was squatting in the rear, so they tried to lift up those springs. So I probably need to add rear springs to the list because those are probably junk at this point. If we swing over here to the middle, we can see that we have some fuel lines. Oh my god. Actually, we have a fuel leak. Look at that. That's huge. That could have been really bad. So that absolutely needs fixed. So that means I'm going to have to drop the tank because I think that's the return line. Alright, well, since we need to drop our tank, I need to empty our tank because of course when the car broke down it had a full tank of fuel. I've got the electric fuel pump up there as close as I can get it to the tank. A inline filter here and of course one on the pump. And we're pumping all that still good gasoline out into a bucket. Usually I would just pump it out the front, but obviously that's the problem, is that all those lines are plugged and no fuel would have came out up front. So I gotta do it back here, which isn't that big of an issue. One thing though is it's not a very solid fuel stream, and now it's stopping. Okay, what's going on? Sure enough, I don't know how well you can see it, but there's some goo sticking out the end of that hose. So let's get a little screwdriver in there and see if we can get some of that out. Oh, I successfully pushed it back in. Not what I wanted to do. Okay, attempt 3. Fuel pump, bucket, hose, straight into the filler neck. This is what I should have done from the start. I have a filter in line here to catch all the crap we're sucking out of the bottom of the tank. Yeah, there's an amount of poop in there. So I'm just going to keep doing this for the next like 12 gallons and then we'll finally drop this tank. There's still a bit of fuel in there. There we go, and there's our build sheet. Mostly eaten by mice, but somewhat still intact. There's a piece of tape that held it on. Get that guy out of there. Hiawatha Motor Company, Hiawatha, Kansas. I don't know, you guys tell us down in the comments, what's all this mean? I see a white top in there. There's the color code over here. Bench seat, electric trunk, wood grain, interior panels, floor carpet front and rear, 3-point belts, and tinted body GL. I don't know what that one means. Deluxe radio, right rear speaker, accessory grip, body paint strip.
That's accessory grape, Kevin.
Oh, ashtray, power disc. It's a 273 ratio. Visor mirror, remote control mirror. Yep, here, look. This guy ordered this car exactly how he wanted it. That's pretty badass. Oh, 354 barrel. Yeah, pretty much. We already knew all this, so it's just confirmed that this was all factory stuff. It was never added on, and this car is exactly like it was when it rolled out of the dealership. I really, really doubt I can save this, so I'm going to take some pictures of it and then try to take it out. We'll see. Oh my god. What? How did this run? How did this fuel sender work? Look at this sock. We drove this like 450 miles. We put 2.5 tanks of gas through that.
Ow.
How was that possible? This thing must have been starving for fuel since day one.
And we drove it all the way home.
I drove it all the way home from Kansas. Can I even, is the whole tank like that? If the whole tank's like that, I'm just gonna have to buy a new tank, which will suck, because this is a great tank. I absolutely need a new one of these. Holy crap. Let's get some more of this goo and or rust out of this line. Alright, so after flushing a bit of brake cleaner through the lines, by which I mean a lot, we have this cool rust pattern on the concrete, probably indefinitely, but our main fuel line actually moves fluid through it just fine. For now, I need to get a tank ordered. I think we're going to go get some supper here in a bit.
We're going to get supper? I already ate half this can of goo.
Okay, so it's the next morning. Last night I went home and ordered a new tank, straps, hardware, sending unit, seals, all that from Summit Racing. It was like 250 bucks or something, so totally happy with that. At that price, it's literally not worth my time to even try to clean out that other tank, and then I have a brand new tank. Today, we're gonna be diving back into the next stuff on the list. There's a lot of stuff here. Looks like I'm gonna need some help here to get all this done. I need to recruit someone. So if you guys remember Wyatt, he is from the diesel series with the tow trucks we did. He helped me get the 7.3 IDI going. And he was also there for the burnt turd revival, which is sitting over there now. So we're back at it again. Just a bunch of busy work this weekend. What should we tackle first, sir? Fuel system's out of play for now until parts get here next week.
Let's pump some water. You good for pumping some water?
Yeah, we do water pump cooling system stuff. Bring Wyatt in for a week and he brings his own tools. This is crazy.
But let's not forget, the star of the show. Would it be Tang?
Oh yes, Tang tools.
What? Seriously, a pair of biplanes? We in Dub Dub 1?
Alright, there's our radiator hold down, McGee.
Radiator?
Now we just pop off the overflow line and the radiator hoses and the transcooler lines, and the radiator's out in like 3 minutes.
You sure the transcooler line's gonna come free?
1960s Ford, take notes, because this is amazing. Getting radiators out of GMs is so easy.
I don't know what ones you thought were hard.
Ford's bolt from the back.
Oh, well yeah, you're dealing with older Fords than what I dealt with, because I know the 70s Fords that I dealt with, the early 70s Torino body style, mine was just clamp, unbolt everything else. Woo!
Yeah, the F100s are a C-channel piece of metal, and then hidden in that C-channel are like 6 bolts. And then the shrouds bolt on separately as well. It's a nightmare. Alright, let's get this sucker out.
Yep. So I just pulled the upper radiator hose, looking down into it after it spilled goo. All of that is stuff that's been sitting inside of that engine block, radiator, heater core, lines, hoses, whatever you want to call it. Yeah,
That needs a flush for sure.
Definitely needs a flush.
I don't know why it ran 190 down the road.
I'm impressed it ran 190 down the road.
It did 200 all the way here actually. And that would be because this is poop, those are full of poop, the spinny McGee is poop. Basically the only good thing was the thermostat. And then as some of you guys pointed out in the comments, which I didn't notice till I got home and I watched the video actually, when I would rev it, this hose would go
Sadness.
because it was directly proportional to RPM, my heat was.
Your heat was?
Drive faster, get hotter. Drive slower, get colder.
Yeah, you've got to have something going on with your water pump
Yeah,
too.
we need to flush this block out then.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Sweet.
Ugh.
Is that just a 2-core?
Yeah, it's a little guy. Looking at how corroded these fins and whatnot are, you're going to run into a rupture issue in the future anyways.
Yeah. Alright, radiator upgrade. But for now, we can do fuel pump, or water pump.
Yeah. So while Kevin was over there helping Mook on another video, I started taking this stuff apart. Actually, I may be able to break the laws of physics. Yeah.
Oh, it's so close.
Yeah. Aha!
But
So that is not how you're supposed to do it, but that's how I just did it.
All right, what you got?
So I'm sitting over here trying to pull the power steering pump off, hating my life. I look up, I see something wired to the bottom of the AC condenser, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of peculiar.
Oh, wow. What is that?
Look at that right there. I believe. Oh, that's still got the. No, I still got an Oldsmobile back.
Dude, it's like the original key.
That.
Holy crap.
Crazy.
How did that survive?
It still has the badge on it and everything.
Get that sucker out of there.
It's still got the enamel. Wow. Not all chewed up and everything.
Let's see if it opens anything.
No. That's awesome.
That's the ignition key then. As it opens the doors. There's another one.
Like that?
Not like this. I don't know if I've ever showed it in the video.
What? That's awesome.
I left it there. I was like, yeah, I might need that.
So to the audience, I'm getting ready to pull the block drain plug. I've armed myself with a chunk of cardboard, rag that's inevitably going to get wet when it splashes over it there. And yeah. And this is an NPT plug fitting, so you are going to naturally feel it get looser over time. It's, to the point where you may actually be able to pull it by hand. Ouch. Yep, there's the water coming. Oh wow, all the chunks that are coming out in this is impressive. Just chunks of garbage. And all we're doing is draining the casting and the block, keeping everything from flooding out when I do the water pump. And it's also a good thing to do towards the end of the summer if you run water in your cooling system. You want to do it on both sides. Let her do her thing. There's that plug I was talking about. Like I said, it's just an NPT pipe fitting. Just chunks and chunks of rust coming out of this block too. I'm betting, seeing how they added coolant to it, it had rust buildup in it, and it was just over time chewing it up. That's impressive. Actually, if you look on the end of that, you can see some of the scale buildup. That's normal to an extent, but in extreme scenarios, you may actually see chunks of rust stuck to that. So I'm just going to stick that back in there for the time being, and go from there.
There's water.
Just a little bit. Seeing how I pulled those block plugs, notice how it's not puking coolant everywhere? And actually that water pump does not look... You can tell where it sat over the years. If you look, it sat about like that and
had water in it.
Had water in it.
But we're going to replace it because we can, and then it's one less thing to fail down the road. How ate up is our plate?
Not really, surprising.
Not too bad, yeah, it'll do. That's actually going to be very easy to get gaskets off that surface, because look, it's just a flat plate. It's amazing.
I know a guy that's got a fancy gasket tool.
Yeah, let's see your fancy tool you brought. So what is this?
So they're called a super scraper. They've got a carbide bit at the end. It's got sharpened edges. I mean, you can literally run your fingers alongside of it, and it doesn't hurt anything. But it cleans the crap out of a machine's flat surface. I get them off of tool trucks. You can order them offline. There's actually a guy in his garage made them way back when, and Lyle actually bought the patent. But I think the guy still makes the Super Scraper brand, but you can get them in the Lyle style. So Kevin over here is gonna...
Let's give it a go. A little bit of metal came up. Damn.
Yeah, it.
She ain't screwing around.
And being pitted as it is, it may be a little bit more of a pain, but it's great for machine surfaces.
Essentially, currently machining the surface. We're planing this right now is what's happening. Hey, you can even scrape rust off.
Yeah, it. This is one of those tools that I recommend to any hobbyist, professional, anyone that does anything. with vehicles that's taking gaskets off.
I could take this down to paint and then paint this damn thing with these. Don't worry, we will be painting this. That's why I did it on that.
Alright, kids. So, we've worked on getting Gooer steering pump out because it is leaking more than it is pumping. Mr. Gooer steering pump, I don't know if the housing is leaking itself, if the pump is leaking itself, but it is leaking and I don't like it. So what we need to do at this point is figure out how to get this pulley off and get this bracket off and find one here in the lovely town. Alright, kids. Why are there tomatoes?
More tomatoes grew in that crack in the concrete than my entire garden. Ah, heck. Well, sun went down. Time is short. We're gonna get some more parts, hit this tomorrow. We will see you guys in the morning. Oh, hey, Wyatt.
Alright, we're on day 2 at the
Water pump.
water pump.
Pretty much all we did yesterday was take the water pump off.
Professional me is going, why did it take all day to take a water pump off?
Yeah, this is the man that pops a cab off a truck in like 2 hours.
Yeah, I actually did one on Friday morning. I had started at 7:30 in the morning and I had the cab off and the heads off of a 6-liter Power Stroke by noon. They were running to the machine shop, ready to have work done.
Yeah, we spent 6 hours doing a water pump.
I can honestly say I have a newfound respect for anyone that does a YouTube channel on cars because the time that it takes to set up, film, do the work, stop the camera, start over again, and then do that, and then he's got Mook he's helping, and his brother was here yesterday doing some small stuff, but I have a newfound respect for you guys on YouTube.
It takes 8 times longer to do anything if you touch a camera.
Yeah, I'm going to say 10 times longer.
We have a new Felpro gasket for that. It's going to be a lot better than that piece of crap that came with that Napa pump, which is probably ultimately going to fail in 300 miles because it's from Napa. We have a reseal kit for our power steering pump because we can't find a power steering pump anywhere in Ames, apparently. So we got about 2 hours till Wyatt's got to head south, and I got some obligations to go do until I can come back tonight. Which means we need to get that water pump aligned. I'm going to start unpulling our carb.
I'm going to try doing some stuff with power steering.
Yep, we got the power steering stuff, so let's divide and conquer. See how far we get. Your time has come, Quadrajet. Wyatt's got some fancy Permatex high-tack to keep everything aligned over there. I'm starting to get this carburetor off, and immediately great things are happening.
Yeah, that's a good part of your choke stove.
Yeah, the stovepipe did snap clean off immediately. So sweet. Dude, the amount of people that got upset in the comments about me talking crap on this carburetor was very entertaining to me. Because every time I look at their picture or their name, and it was a 65-year-old man. Or a 55-year-old man, or just a New Balance shoe.
I enjoy the Quadrajet to a point, but I'm also not a giant guy that goes and tunes these things, get the absolute most part. I just enjoy them for the simplicity that they are.
I'll tell you why in 2 seconds, why you enjoy them. So here's the thing about Quadrajets. This is why they always work, even though they're always wrong. And you'll never know, because if you just drive Quadrajets your whole life, it feels normal. Or just improperly tuned cars, it feels normal. There's no diaphragm-operated things like a Holley's power valve or secondaries. All that is literally weights and springs and mechanical bits and pieces that don't fail after sitting for so long.
I was going to say, they're all needles and seats for the most part.
Yeah, nothing can go bad because it's all mechanical. Which makes it very, very hard to tune. Also, you have no idea what your float level's at, ever. On this and an Edelbrock, you do not know what your float level's at because you can set it all day, but you can't see it. You can never see it.
I run these on whenever I do a derby car and whatnot. They're a simple carb for that aspect.
They're bulletproof.
Yeah, they're a bulletproof carb.
But they're never going to run right. But the largest reason Quadrajets are so robust and run so well without people even knowing that they're wrong is because of this right here. It's a massive spread bore.
Giant spread bore.
Giant spread bore carb. Which means, if you're unaware what a spread bore is, let me show you. Don't feel everywhere. The primaries are absolutely tiny in comparison to the secondaries. So when you're driving around, you're just on these primaries. And tiny ports create large port velocities and lots of vacuum signal, and they're very forgiving to carburetor and tuning air, because they never make power in the first place because they're this big. Now you get into your secondaries, and half the time they don't even freaking work because your air door is stuck and it doesn't come open. Another downside to these split bore carbs is the massive CFM ratings, because a lot of times the doors were never designed to open all the way. They only come open 3/4 of the way and limit a quote-unquote 800 CFM carb down to like 600 CFM. And then all these guys that love quadrajets are like, well, I had an 800 CFM on a 350 before. If I'm going to do a Holly or anything, it's got to be an 800 CFM as well. Guess what? You're wrong. Go online. Use a calculator. It's on the internet. Google what size carburetor you need for your engine. And unless you are in a true race application, which 98% of people think they are, and they are not. They are not race cars. They're driving their car in the street back and forth to work, and they're going to have horrible drivability issues if they think they're a race car and they get a race-sized carb. Do not get an oversized carburetor. If you go online and Google, I think it's your RPM and your engine displacement, it will give you a CFM rating of what you need for a straightable daily driven motor. That's what you guys should do. Get a 600, get a 650 CFM carb. Don't go around putting 750s and 850s on a 302.
You mean that's not going to give me a 8-second quarter mile like every 80-year-old man told me they did back in the 70s with a Maverick and...
You had 411s out back and blah, blah, blah. Yep, nope. So all you're doing in that case when you oversize a carburetor is you're making these huge ports like this try to flow this amount of air. Yes, it will move lots of air through it, but your engine can't produce that much air. It can only suck so hard. And when the port is huge, the port velocities slow down. Think of a small garden hose versus an 8-inch tube moving the same amount of water. One's going to trickle, the other one's going to spray. Small ports, higher velocities. Higher velocities through a carb, better vacuum signal.
Better vacuum signal, and you end up seeing more low-end torque out of it because you're getting a better, like I said, better vacuum signal, better air-fuel mixture.
Yep, you can atomize so much better.
Atomize so much better.
So what happens when you put a huge carb on? You lose that vacuum signal quality and you run lean. People would think too big of a carb runs rich. It runs lean because it can't pull fuel. There's no air there to pull the fuel. And you're going to have all sorts of horrible, horrible times trying to tune out a lean spot, which is the entire length of the carburetor. It literally can never move enough air until it's up top at race RPM. That's why race carburetors for engines that stay at $5,000 all day are bigger, because they can utilize that because they're moving tons of amount of air.
You're getting the port velocity through speed.
So before all the old guys come in the comments and repeat to me the only line they know to argue about all that logic, I'm just going to address it right now. When carburetors are measured, their CFM rating on a 4-barrel is measured at, I believe, 2 inches of mercury, and a 2-barrel is 4 inches of mercury. I might have those flipped. I might be off 1 or 2. I don't remember, but they're measured at vacuum, which means they are restrictive. So when it's measured at 650 CFM at 2 inches of mercury, it actually flows a little less, because it would be 0 inches of mercury if it was truly 650 CFM. So this is probably a 620 CFM carburetor, somewhere around that. Someone do the math, let me know. But that's still oversized. So you guys that are going to be in the comments, you can put an 850 on because they're measured at vacuum. You're wrong. Go away. Take your New Balances off. Go grill something, okay?
Get your Corvette and go race a Mustang or something and still get drugged.
Here's the problem, though. You can't get small carbs very often. There's, for 500 CFMs, I know Edelbrock now makes one in their AVS 2. I'm pretty sure they have a 500 CFM. And I know as a fact, the Summit series carburetor, the M 2008 models, they make a 500 CFM. And that's usually what I run in all my cars because it's the only cheap, readily available 500 CFM. So yeah, the problem with smaller engine RPMs and displacements is it's hard finding small carbs, and sometimes the only thing you can get, such as in our case, for a spread bore, AVS 2, what I wanted for this, the only thing I grab at the moment was a 650. So
well, there's a difference between overcarbing your car slightly and excessively overcarbing your car.
Don't get an 850 when you can get a 650. Don't get a 750 when you can get a 500. Get something close and reasonable.
A properly tuned street engine will probably outdo your buddy's built race engine on the street with an exuberantly oversized carburetor due to the vacuum signals and whatnot. I'm going to hate to say it, my daily driver's like that. It's got a different engine in it out of a Navigator. It's got excessively large intake ports. It doesn't run like a truck anymore. It runs great at 3,000 to 5,000 RPM when it's getting that port velocity, but down low where I needed to do truck things, I told Kevin about this engine. It couldn't do a burnout the other day. It's sat. I put this big engine in my truck, it won't do a burnout because it's not set up right.
Yep, it's mismatched between
Yes.
different parts. An engine built with smaller components for less performance use, which is better balanced between the components, they're matched, they're synced to work together, will outdo a slap random big parts on it engine every time.
Yes.
Balance and efficiency is horsepower.
Yes.
Alright, we could talk about this all day, or we could get a carburetor on here. So let's go get our carburetor out of the box and take a look at that. Wyatt's going to keep buttoning up the water pump and then move on to swapping the seals in our power steering pump. Because we could find these at O'Reilly's, but not a pump.
Yeah, that's weird.
So hopefully that all fits. We'll see. So with that being said, we have a carburetor here. And you'll notice, this is not our usual forte. This right here is not the usual brand that we put on cars and deal with on this channel. And there's a couple reasons for that. Reason number one, when I'm done with this car, I'm going to be handing it off to someone close to me for them to look after the car because I have too many damn projects sitting around. And it's going to be better off in their hands. They're not a very mechanical person. I want something that they can go out and fire up and drive around whenever they want to, and they're not going to have to worry about fine tunability or diaphragms failing and whatnot else that may happen on a Holly. I want it to work all the time and be easy to work on. So we got a hold of Edelbrock and they sent over their brand new 650 CFM AVS2 carburetor. Which leads me to reason two. I don't work on Edelbrocks that much. And a lot of the times when we're on power tour and stuff and someone's broke down on the side of the road or someone messages me and they need help, they have an Edelbrock on. And I don't know what to do all the time. I know enough to be dangerous, but I don't know enough to be deadly. I wanted to get one to learn and play with so that I can teach you guys stuff about Edelbrocks here on the channel. Now, of course, there's a lot of personal preference when it comes to carburetors, obviously. We like our Hollies on our cars. We're trying to dial in to 1/10 of a digit on our O2 gauges. I'm not even going to put an O2 gauge in this car permanently because I want to keep this as era appropriate as possible. So if you guys just got your first classic car and you don't know what you're doing with carburetors yet, you know enough to make it run and drive, and you want to put a new carb on, this is actually what I would recommend because they are so much more tolerant to changes in the environment than a diaphragm actuated carburetor. These are very robust. They can go through a lot of temperamental changes in temperatures and conditions, and they will still run very well. They're very lenient, tolerant carburetors. Okay, now you may be asking, Kevin, why the AVS2 over the original Edelbrock AVS or Carter AFB or whatever? Right here, this is why. Those are annular boosters, which are going to handle low vacuum signal, low RPM driving, and just regular cruising much better than a dogleg style booster. Example of a dogleg, this guy back here. It's a Venturi with a pipe sticking out, the gas comes out. Annular boosters are a Venturi with a bunch of holes in a circle where more gas can flow with less air signal. I'm actually going to correct myself here to avoid confusion. It's not more gas quantitatively that is flowing, it's the fact that the annular boosters can pull a better atomized fuel stream at low engine RPM. For example, the photo on the right is the annular booster. Notice the finer atomization of the fuel stream into the carburetor. Now, annular boosters are not some wizardly new technology. They have been around for a long time. In fact, every two-barrel motorcraft I've ever built has annular boosters. They are a proven technology, and I'm really excited to see that Edelbrock has finally implemented them into their AVS2. Okay, back to the video. This carb is a spread bore. As you can see, is a much less drastic spread bore. The transitions from the primaries into the secondaries are going to be much smoother on this carburetor than they would on the original Quadrajet that this car was equipped with. This one will move into the secondaries nice and smooth, where the other one would be primaries, slaps secondaries over, and goes piss lean, accelerator pump can't keep up, backfires, pops, stutters, and then takes off.
You mean like a normal 350?
Yeah.
When like a boomer's mad taking off in his Corvette
yeah.
after AA or AAA, or no, AARP meeting?
Yeah. Yeah, leaving their AARP, they slap it open, it goes,
Or golf club.
yeah, that literally solely exists because those massive secondaries slap open, and you go from this to this in no time at all, and no accelerator pump can ever keep up with that, especially when it's on a quadrijet because they never work in the first place. Let's talk about the AVS2 versus the older Edelbrock series carburetors. This gap right here where you can see the weight that operates the secondaries is exposed so that airflow into the carb can get turbulated over here and be all poopy, but it does the center horn to kind of help split. But this is just an absolute CFM nightmare. On the AVS2, there's a dam built in from the upper casting that pushes air towards the center. Now they do not have the center horn and it's still open here, but those huge holes on the side have now been covered and redirected into the carburetor where the air is supposed to go. Alright, that's enough talking. Thank you, Edelbrock, for sending this to us. Let's go ahead and put it on the car and see how it does.
Jazz sounds play.
I don't mess with Edelbrocks as far as installing them, so all the little abnormalities and nuances I don't know. That's what Google's for. But tuning-wise, it's the same methodology as you would tune a Holly by. I mean, engine
Just a little more,
principles and everything.
far more lenient, actually. Or tolerant, sorry.
Well, like I always say, carburetors in general are very forgiving. It's mostly ignition timing that actually matters. That people blame carburetors for ignition timing stuff all the time. But anyway, Edelbrock's still a decent unit. I just run Hollies, but it'll be great for this car.
If you were to tell someone who's putting their first carburetor on a car what to get and they have no idea how to tune stuff, what would you tell them?
I don't know. I do think the AVS2s from Edelbrock, from what I've seen on people's cars, I think they're a great unit.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%. I just know that, you know, you have a specific float height setting on an Edelbrock and you don't have a sight plug or anything, so you just have to have the fuel pressure within the range that Edelbrock prescribes. And then other than that, like, that's the only thing that's kind of weird about them, but as long as you do what they tell you, it'll run correctly and all the circuits will come in when they're supposed to.
AKA, you have to have a fuel pressure regulator at 5 psi.
Or at least make sure you put a gauge on it for a second and make sure your mechanical fuel pump is within that range.
Yeah.
And if it is, great. Neat little engine. That was seized. Hard to believe.
Oh, yeah, the whole engine was seized. I thought you were talking about the new water pump. I was like, what?
Well, I found this on the shelf. This is a spread bore to quadrijet adapter. Unfortunately, it's a one hole for like an open plenum or something. Or if you're okay with just having a big open hole between all four of your bores, which I don't really like. So, hey, do they make a 4-hole version of this?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so
I think that's your only option for a
quadrijet.
spread board square. That's a square bore, isn't it?
Spread bore to quadrijet.
Square bore to spread bore. So
No. Spread bore to quadrijet.
Rectangle to triangle.
well, what's this guy right here?
That's a square to spread. Square bore to circle bore.
So stressful. I just run square bores. Anyway, that's your only option. That's all you got.
Water pump's done. Power steering pump's about to come apart. Our time for the day is up. Wyatt has to go.
Yeah, I did not get nearly as much done as I wanted to get done. Like I said, I have a newfound respect for Kevin and Luke and anyone else who runs a car channel on YouTube. This is a new form of wild.
So I've always looked at it the other way, like how the hell do you service techs get stuff done so fast? It's like I've never understood it, because this is what I'm used to. It takes 7 days to do 2 days of work.
Yeah, you mean 2 minutes of work?
Yeah, literally.
It's always a good time when I come up here to see Kevin, and I actually finally got to meet Luke this time.
Yep, brought some parts up with you too, so
Yep.
Thank you very much for delivering those, and thank you very much for the help. You have yourself a safe drive. We'll see you next time.
Yep.
As for me, I have cleaned up this spread bore to quadrijet adapter. There we go, got it out. It hurt, but I got it out. So we can go ahead and throw a gasket under him and bolt him down, get that all nice and happy. And then another gasket and our carburetor. Damn it. That is a very aggressive spread bore pattern. I mean, this would work, but I'm definitely going to see some airflow loss from, let's see if I put it on that corner. This one's mostly uncovered, but these backs are not bad. I think I can open this up more, make it breathe a little better. Actually, before you say anything, I usually use the straight die grinder, but it broke, so I gotta use my 90. There we go. That's what I like to see. No lip at all. Nice smooth transition versus block. So get this one cleaned up, then we're good to go. Oh, like an absolute glove. Like, wow, I did way better than I anticipated. I actually can't even feel the crack. Nailed it. While I'm in here, I think I'm gonna do something weird. So this is a dual plane intake, meaning that 2 of these holes feed 4 cylinders and the other 2 feed a different 4 cylinders. And you can see them. These 2 holes here, which are connected by this thin bridge of metal, feeds this cylinder, that cylinder, and this cylinder. It only feeds 4. This lower one down here, which goes down way further, feeds the other 4 cylinders. Now, dual planes have their advantages for street use because the different runner lengths, left to right, help balance each other out. And because of that, they can provide a low profile to clear air cleaners in the hood and provide good torque on the bottom end, yet RPM up top because this side is short runners and this side is a little bit longer runners. Now, none of what I'm about to do is necessary. You guys don't have to do it at all, but while I'm in here, I've always wanted to try this, so I'm going to do it. To me, it doesn't make any sense to have gone through all the work to properly match this adapter plate when I have just a big old freaking square of shit right here that's still going to mess with my airflow. So I'm going to actually come in here. I'm going to plug this intake full of rags and some other forms to keep any metal from falling into it, and I'm going to cut out these bridges. Oh, no going back now. Let's see if this works. One thing I know it will do is keep my damn butterfly valves from sticking wide open. These are smaller than the primaries on the Edelbrock. Hey Kevin, how much do you dislike quadrajets? Enough to bastardize an intake so it can never accept a quadrajet again? Yes. Absolutely yes. All we have left is that little bridge down there. I should be able to snap that out, and then I can get in here with the Porty McGee and smooth everything out, and we'll have a regular, proper dual plane intake. No stupid holes, no spreadboard crap, nothing. Just pure, unadulterated airflow. Okay, I'm gonna stop for the night. I started bleeding from my nose in the middle of porting. This is how close we are though. I'll come back and finish that up tomorrow when I am potentially dead or alive. I don't know, we'll find out, you know. It's just part of the adventure. Am I gonna die? Am I gonna live? We'll see you guys in the morning. I have finished the porting stuff that we've done. It will now happily accept a spreadboard carburetor with very little difference in performance compared to what we would have had before, which would have been a potato. So this thing is going to breathe a lot better now. If I wanted to do 3 more hours of grinding, I could get this triangle out, but I'm honestly not worried about it. This is going to do great. Looks a lot better looking down through our spacer now. So we'll get some gaskets in here, get all this bolted on, and then get a carburetor on this car finally. All right, got our studs in. Adapters on, gaskets on, and now the crown jewel, the Edelbrock AVS2. Looks pretty damn good on there. I'm going to go ahead, put our washers on, and then put our nuts on. A couple things to note about that. A lot of people like to use lock washers. I don't actually, because they dig into the carburetor base because it's aluminum, and that will actually remove material. And over time, might get a little thin, might crack, do weird shit, look ugly, blah, blah, blah. Another thing, when you're tightening these nuts down, I don't know how many times I see this, people love to over torque them. They'll torque them to like 20 foot-pounds. It's like 5 to 8 to 10. It's tiny amounts of torque on these because they are aluminum and hollow, and carburetors will warp really easily, and then they'll screw up your bore concentricities, and everything will be on fire. And you don't want to be on fire. Mook might, but no one else does.
I want to be on fire.
Yeah, see, we don't need that. So I'm just going to go through and just snug these down. It's not a lot of torque. I'm going to go in a cross pattern as well. Nothing catches, nothing binds. Everything's happy, looking good. There it is. I got all our linkages done. Had to do a little custom bracketry, but she's good to go. Today is Thursday, and I want to have this video out to you guys Friday, so we're going to cut it here, get you a little more content so you don't have to sit around for a week with no video. Next week, we're going to put our fuel system back in, finish everything up top on the engine, finish everything on the front of the engine, and then put the sucker back on the road to where it belongs. And then after that, I'm going to have a bit of a surprise for you guys where we wrap up the story on this car for now. It'll be back, don't worry. The other reason I'm cutting this video here is because I don't have time to work on it this weekend, unfortunately, because this weekend is Thunderhead 289's wedding. The dude's finally getting married. So as a wedding gift, I want you guys to all go subscribe to the Thunderhead 289's YouTube channel, leave a comment and likes on videos, give them a little boost in the algorithms as a congratulations for finally getting hitched. So with that being said, we'll see you next week right here on Junkyard Digs. Make sure you like, subscribe, check out the Edelbrock AVS2. Great carburetor so far, I'm really liking it. We'll see what it's really like next week. Go subscribe to Thunderhead 289, wish him congratulations on his wedding. Subscribe to Junkyard Mook, Dylan McCool, Classic Mustangs 429, Deboss Garage, Vice Grip Garage, and Cars and Cameras. See you guys in 7 days. Peace.